Not yet.
I know.
And now we're live.
I said, yeah, I'm ready, but I wasn't 100% ready.
Well,
But I do that. See, I lied to you, Trinity. I just lied.
that's okay. I'm positive that you lied, but we are currently live now. So
All right.
if you need to share or whatever,
Yep.
go for it. Let me know when you have uh, completed your task there, and we'll get started. So the whole world can hear us talk about things. Now I can't get Jeffrey Dahmer out of my head.
I know. Jack's calling me.
I don't think he realized that we were doing back-to-back shows. So, but anyways, are you ready? Did you share? Because
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
answer Jack on during one of my monologues.
Yeah. Go for it.
All right, let me roll that beautiful bean footage.
Shut up and sit down.
Boom. What's up, everybody? it's boom. Anyways, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Dope and Dharma. This is, of course, the Dharma Time Hour. He is the one and only Dope Doctor, and I'm still the Dharma guy. Last I checked. What's up?
Right.
It's if you're watching live, this is a different day. This is I don't know. This feels weird. Normally we do Dharma Time on Tuesdays if Mr. Celebrity here is in town and gracing Florida with his presence, but today we're doing
Wait,
it
this
because
is all
I'm
your
not going to be
fault.
available. Yeah, I'm not going to be
Okay,
available
good.
tomorrow.
All
So.
right. I was wondering if you were going to admit that one.
Well, I had to set it up first. I had to blame you and then sneak in. This is my fault. Anyways, so if you guys would like to watch us live and participate, you can always check us out at Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch live under Dope and Dharma. You can leave us your comments live during the show, and we'll discuss them. And otherwise, if you'd like to just check us out at your own leisure, you can of course do so on any of the major podcasting platforms under Dope and Dharma. And then of course all of our old videos and shows are up too on YouTube, I guess, but it depends on how you consume that kind of stuff, I guess. And for those of you who are watching us live, you might have just got a notification like an hour ago that we were doing another show. That's because we were doing our normal Monday night show, which is on, if you're in the local area, it's on WOKB 1680 or 100.7 FM. And it's the Couch Live, where we talk about drug and alcohol related issues, family issues, that kind of stuff. Tonight's episode, if you didn't catch it and you want to catch it at a later time, it was on faith and recovery, which is a very interesting topic. But tonight's show on Dharma Time edition is going to be negativity. And if you read the title, you kind of already knew that.
I already don't like it.
that right there sums up what we're talking about, right? So let me tell you why what prompted this, right? I mean, there's a plethora of things that have prompted it, but the first one that came to my mind, and if anybody is going to end up watching this from this story, I apologize ahead of time if you take this personal. I promise you it's not. It's just it was the catalyst to make me think, hey, you know what? This is just a microcosm of what's happening in the world at large, right? So for those of you who don't know, him and I both, but I probably more so than him, on my downtime to relax or just veg out, if you will, I'll play video games, right? It's something I'm into. I enjoy. It's mindless fun. It doesn't cost me a bunch of money. I'm not out there like drinking and acting crazy. I'm at home, chilling on the couch, right? That's my downtime. But
killing people.
Exactly.
And he's good at it. He's so good. He's so good at it.
Right. But somewhere the CIA is reaching out to me. But no, so in one of the games that I play is Destiny, right? And it is a shooter game where you're going around killing space aliens and whatnot. But they have these things, they're groups essentially, right? They're called clans in there, but I know that's got a weird exactly. It's got a weird vibe to anybody who doesn't play these games, but we'll call it group. How's that? So I was in one for a better part of almost 2 years, right? And met some really cool people, but I've recently left that.
Oh, I didn't know you did.
I did. I started my own, and then I found out how hard it was to recruit, so then I joined somebody else's. It got absorbed. But the reason why I left, a lot of the people I enjoy and I still play with occasionally but the vibe changed, right? The vibe turned into a very negative tone. And what I mean by that is, now let me preface this just in case they do watch this, because they have been known to tune in occasionally.
Yeah.
I understand why, right?
Mhm.
They're burnout basically for them. They reached a certain level of excellence. They put
Right.
a tremendous amount of time into this game. We're talking into the thousands of hours over the years. Um, and so they kind of just got burnt out. And
Right.
I can appreciate being burnt out and being turned off from something. I totally get it, right? Like I love hamburgers, man. Like cheeseburgers, I guess. But if you made me have cheeseburger for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day, like there's going to be a point where I'm like, all right, dude, I've had enough of cheeseburgers. I'm done.
Well,
No
you should
matter how
eat
much I
tacos.
enjoy. Yeah, right. So, anyways, all that was just to say that it turned into a situation where no matter what new thing was being presented to us, it was like negative. It was like, oh, this is trash. Oh, I can't. Like they would pick it apart and be negative. And for me, I still enjoy it, right? Because for me personally, I put it in a certain place in my life where I'm able to compartmentalize, if you will. I'm not saying they do or don't. I don't know. I just know for me personally, I don't view it for any more than what it is, which is
Mhm.
a thing for me to kill some time with and have a good time. So I'm
Right.
still looking forward to the new things and I enjoy the drops and whatnot. But that basically what it did though is it made me think just on a bigger scale, right? Like that was just once again a microcosm of what's happening. And what I've noticed over the years is we, the collective we, if you will, it feels like we've gotten really negative lately. Just like negative, pessimistic, just grumpy, just really just mad, right? And I don't mean mad as in like the people are out there yelling at others and want to fight and stuff. That's that's a to me it's a separate discussion. What
Mm.
I mean by negativity is what we would sometimes say, well, I'm just being real, right? Like I'm being realistic. Well, realistically, good things happen too. So you can't just say you're being realistic. You're kind of erring on the side, and I'm guilty of that, mind you. There's been plenty of things where, well, you complained about it all the time when it comes to like the 49ers. Like I am a 49ers fan, but for many years, I really didn't think that Jimmy G
Yeah.
to get us where we need to go. So
Yeah.
when you and I would trash talk about sports, I would always preface it by saying, we'll see. Like and I
Exactly.
was just being realistic. But realistically speaking, I was being negative
Right.
because Jimmy could have like he is capable. Some could argue he is or isn't capable. He's a professional and he
Mhm.
knows how to throw the ball. So put those two things together, and
Mhm.
in theory, he could have taken us. I, on the other hand, didn't think so. But part of that negativity came from me not being optimistic, but instead looking at all the past failures and expecting another failure to happen. And so therefore it would come off as like a negative thing. And I would just say, I'm just being realistic. Now, you could argue, statistically speaking, I was in the right.
Right.
However, it wasn't very optimistic. It wasn't very hopeful. Like I wouldn't put it this way. I wouldn't want all the guys in the locker room to feel the same way.
This is
As a
very therapeutic for you, Trinity. Go ahead, please.
yeah,
You could continue. Thank
as a
you.
fan of the team, I want everybody in the locker room to be like, rah, rah, Reed, that's our guy.
Yes. Yes.
And so well, I guess I'm looking around and I'm seeing in life right now, everywhere I look, there's just, man, there's a lot of negativity.
Mhm.
Yes, there's anger and stuff, but even the people who aren't like angry, it seems like we're so tilted to just negative. We'll see something on TV and we're like, oh, what's the catch? Or, a sales thing will come and be like, oh, how are they going to get me? A friend comes and they have a new person in their life and we're like
Right.
criticizing the person, like,
Right.
are they right for them or whatever? Somebody gets a new car and we're like, oh, well, I wonder how much that cost. Or, I would have gotten that color. Like, we just seem to be really negative lately, right? Not to say it hasn't always existed. I'm aware of that. But
Right.
I felt like anecdotally speaking, I saw more positivity or more neutrality over the years, but it feels lately increasingly it's getting more and more negative. Like we're constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop, or we're constantly
Right.
looking no matter what it is and trying to critique it and find a negative aspect of it. And I'm just I kind of think that needs to stop, man. Like I don't see the benefit from that. But what do you? First of all, have you noticed a rise in your opinion
Are
in
you kidding
negativity?
me? Are you kidding? Yeah, I mean, um, yeah, I don't know if I'm just more sensitive to it, maybe we're part of the sensitivity thing that's happening out there in the real world.
I'm woke, baby. I'm woke.
Maybe we just got woke up, and so
Right.
now we're being sensitive to those that are the woke bullies, that are out there. You know what I mean? Because I've said this on other shows, and I think I've said this on this show, that I always, first of all, I love sarcasm. I'm addicted to sarcasm.
Yes.
I speak in
Same.
sarcasm. That's my love language, is sarcasm.
Same.
So if I'm sarcastic with you, it's because I love you. If I don't love you, I just don't even talk to you at all. Trust me, it's just not even communicate with you. But if I love you, I'm sarcastic. And so anyway, coming from that standpoint, there was always this group of people out there that were like, to me, like the Moonies. And if you don't know what the Moonies are, they're I love, peace, love, the hippies. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like this peace, love. Because I was raised 70s, 80s, and so you had these people that were always just so damn joyous.
Sure.
And all my life making fun of how happy they were. Happy people drove me nuts. If they were too smiley, if they were too happy, if they were too joyous, it just drove me nuts. And I felt like I looked like Debbie Downer, like I was more negative, right?
Right.
Even though internally I'm a very positive-minded person, I think it came off very negative because I would always poo-poo on their kindness and happiness.
Right.
And then something switched. A few years back, probably about 6 years back now, 7 years back, the same individuals and people that I always looked up to for being the happiest people on earth, like the stupid ride at Disney that I can't wait to get
Right.
off of.
Sure.
It's a small world, right? It's a torture, that ride. All of a sudden, those happy people are now angry. They couldn't stop being angry. like the most loving, inclusive, accepting people, to me, are now the most volatile, angry, bitter, hateful people. Like the same people that always just say love, and now it's all hate.
Yeah.
It's hate. It's I only love you if you look exactly like me or accept me to look like it's, but if you're not, I hate you. And I think that has projected this off balance where we're at right now on the earth. I think it shifted the Earth's axis because Earth required these people to stay happy. They required these people to stay loving. We needed the love.
Right.
John Lennon did not sing like that for no reason.
Sure.
But these people are nowhere near John Lennon. And the other people that used to be that I thought were, they're happier.
Right.
Like they're the ones accepting. They're the ones loving. Now they still have their boundaries, but it's boundaries, and boundaries are healthy.
Sure.
You know what I mean? They have the rules and regulations, which is healthy. So it's. I think that's why I feel like there's more negativity out there. Because the wrong people are happy and the wrong people are angry, and it just confuses the hell out of me, Trinity. And so I think that before, if you were Wednesday-ish, meaning that character Wednesday from Addams Family, if you were a Wednesday, you knew you were a Wednesday.
Right.
But now our Sundays are Wednesdays, and they don't know that they're Wednesdays.
Right.
And I think that's why it appears more negative. Does any of that make sense to you?
Yeah, of course. Well, the thing that worries me though, right, is so to me, you got like angry, mad, and then you have negative, and I think those are kind of like different at times, right? Now they're
at times
they're best friends, you know what I mean? They hang out, but they are different. And what I mean by that is like somebody who's being angry and volatile and stuff, like that's not sustainable, right? Like you're gonna run out of steam at some point, and you're gonna calm down. You can't be like that all day, every day. It takes too much energy. You're gonna relax at some point. But negativity, on the other hand, that is sustainable. I've seen people be negative like for years, right? And
it's a character trait.
Yeah,
it's an attitude.
Like you can still be nice to people, but just be this, like you said, Debbie Downer, negative Ned. You can just be this. Just no matter what it is, you'll find fault in it. You'll criticize it. You'll find the imperfection of whatever it is that's presented to you.
Right.
And that's not to say that the imperfection doesn't exist, because I'm not saying that they're making stuff up. I mean, they're pointing out oftentimes realistic things or statistically realistic things about whatever opportunity or thing or whatever's in front of
or
them.
their opinions, which is fine.
Yeah. However, realistically speaking, once again, there is just as many good things that happen as negative things in the world.
Right.
And so if you're choosing to only be realistic about the negative outcomes, there are like that's on you, bro. There are positive things. Like, for every for every million people who play the lottery and lose, there's one lucky sucker that does win, actually, right? Like, it does happen. So it's just weird to me. And what worries me is it is sustainable. And I see it with my kids sometimes. It's like, it's almost cool now, right? Like, I remember back in the day, even like you were saying, because I'm not I'm an 80s, 90s guy. And I remember when I was younger, there was a lot of like sitcoms on TV. It was like a feel good, and it wasn't cool to be negative. It was cool to be like happy, joyful, optimistic. And then you had a couple negative ones come in there, and then they garnered attention. Of course, they were comedians or whatever. Like, I remember Sam Kinison back in the day. So you had those people, and they were so rare that it was almost refreshing to feel, to have somebody like, stick it to the man every now and then and say something. She's like, "Whoa, wow, okay, I was thinking it, but you said it." But they were still like not the mainstream. But what I've noticed now is like, they are the mainstream. Like, it is cool now to be just Eeyore, like to be negative and pissy and gloomy, and just, it's almost like, you're like pushed into that to where, and then the happy-go-lucky joyful person is then considered to be like weird and obscure. It's like,
where
you
are
said,
they?
It's done like a complete flip, right?
Where are they?
I don't know, man. I don't see as many of them anymore. And it's weird. Like, matter of fact, I'm like, I feel like I'm the happy guy now, which is not
that's
how the
why
earth is supposed to be intended.
It's flip. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
The fact that you and I are the ones talking about that people should be more positive and happy,
Something's wrong.
Something,
Because
something
I'm
has
the
changed.
king. I am the king at looking at things in a rational manner. I am the king of looking at both sides and leaning towards what I feel to be statistically more likely to happen, which is usually the negative thing. Like, but like lately, I feel like, I'm the one in the room, like, hey, come on, guys. And no, I'm not supposed to be in that lane. That's not my lane. But I feel like I have to, because there's so many people. It's just and the thing that they don't realize is nothing good comes from that, right? It's like negativity begets negativity.
Yeah.
When you approach a situation as, hey, this sucks, this is gonna suck, it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Because then whenever said whatever activity, object or whatever it is appears, then you're going to immediately try to validate your previous opinion. And then when you find it, then you're going to, see, I told you, and completely ignore all the other positive things, right? Like, for instance, let's say, just because I mentioned it earlier for comparison's sake, I guess, winning the lottery. If you're the type of person that says winning the lottery is going to be horrible, well, I could agree to certain aspects of that, right? It'll be horrible in the sense of, you're going to potentially now have all these people who you've had in your life that you haven't contacted who are all going to reach out to you. That sucks. It sucks to feel like all those people
Your dad's going to call you Trinity.
Yeah. It's going to suck to feel like all these people, are now coming to you and they didn't care before. You're going to constantly have to worry about the people who are in your life who come into your life, new people. Are they coming in your life because they like you, or they think they can get something from you? You're going to have to always worry about litigation and lawsuits, things of that nature. More money, more problems, as they used to say. You're going to have all these bills now. Your status of living is going to come up, so now you're going to feel like you're a slave to maintaining that status of living. Like, so I can point out.
I'll give you the best one. Hold on before you stop it. That you got to pay half of it back to them, the government.
yeah. I got to pay half of these millions of dollars that I didn't have yesterday to the government.
I've heard people say, "God, you win 12 million, but you only get 6." Like, okay,
yeah. So once again, if you're wanting to approach it from a negative situation, you absolutely can. And you're right; those are all byproducts of winning the lottery. Having said that, can you think of anybody right now that would turn down a winning lottery ticket if I gave it to them? No, because we all know the positives that come with it. You have the money to do whatever you want. Him and I always like to joke. Well, we're on internet now, so I can say it. You'll have fuck you money at that point.
Yeah.
You know, when you got that kind of money, you can kind of do whatever you want. You make your own rules. You want to walk out the house in a bathrobe all day? Nobody's going to tell you no, because you're not beholden to anybody. You can kind of do what you want. And so, and I would argue that the positives far outweigh the negatives of winning the lottery. You know, if we're putting them in a bucket, the negative bucket's not going to be empty, but you're going to need a couple buckets for the positive parts, right? But yet, if you're the individual that is focused on the negative side of it, you're going to ruin winning it, because all you're going to focus is up. See, you know, oh, my uncle called me yesterday. I haven't heard from him in 10 years. And wondering what he wants. Like, it's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy is what I'm getting at. And so this idea you're just being real. No, you're being like, you're being an ass to yourself, you know, not to say the people around you, who knows how it's impacting them, but to yourself. You're like getting in your own way and you don't even realize it. Like you can't even comprehend the ripple effect that you're creating by constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop. Right?
Yeah. Am I back yet? I know I was freezing up there for a second there.
Oh, you're back.
My back.
Yeah.
No, you're back. Good. That was funny. So you're 100% right, Trinity. Unfortunately, negativity is like a virus. It spreads. So it's not just sustainable. It's you know, it's passed on and passed on and passed on. And you don't even know when you have it. And I am so sensitive to negative vibrations, man. I really don't like it. You know, I struggle with being around people that are just constantly negative about everything, because I did not know I was such a positive minded person until, as I got older, I was able to identify it, until I learned exactly what works for me and what doesn't work for me. Where am I more successful? When is my energy drained? When is it improved? You know, when you start doing a lot of self-observation is when you kind of really figure out who you really are. Because in your younger years, you're kind of just existing, and you're trying to be who you think you're supposed to be. You're trying to be who you think you want to be. Yeah. But so we're all wannabes when we're younger, you know. And if that's offensive to you, then you know, you'll get over it. But we're all wannabes when we're younger, and then you kind of become who you are, bees. You know, and then we're all Arby's. This is who I am. And you may like it, you may not like it. But some of you came out the other side very negative. And when I'm around you, it just drains me. It just because you can't talk about any possibility. And I love dreaming. I'm a dreamer. Yeah, I love the dreaming. I love the talking big of what's possible.
Do you know how many times I have it's actually been with my buddy Terrence or you, as a matter of fact, and you're going to laugh when you hear this because you're going to remember the exact moment too, by the way. Do you know how many times that I've taken over the world on a napkin at like a restaurant or a bar or something? Like that to me is like, oh, it's a beautiful thing, right? Like this hopeful of like, man, you could do this and then this would happen. You know? And who knows if it'll come true or not, man. That kind of dreaming one time, a quick little story, right? My buddy Terrence, this is why I thought of him. Mm-hmm. So when him and I both worked at the postal service, we couldn't wait to get out. Both of us. We hated the mundane, you know, throwing boxes around all night. It wasn't for us. And for those of you who are working at post office, hey man, bless you. I can't do it. And so him and I, he is the perpetual starter. This dude would come to me at least twice, maybe 3 times a week with some new way of making money. Right. It would be like, hey man, I was looking on, you know, I found this, you know, like and some of them were realistic and some of them were so harebrained, like, come on, dude, think stop. Didn't stop us from doing it. Didn't stop us from trying. And so we were constantly, I could think of at least 30 different ideas that we thought of that was going to make money and get us out of there. And none of them worked. One of them was we were going to get into this whole flipping houses thing. Right. And so we found these houses on the lands available list, and we're driving around in like the heart of the ghetto, like the most hoodiest hood place you can think of. We in here in Orlando, and it's like 2:00 in the morning. It's pouring down raining, and him and I were driving through these hood places looking for addresses of things we found on there because we work nights. So when we got out of work, we're like, let's go now. We're gonna find it, you know. And it was like, and of course it didn't work out. It was a bad idea, but it was that hope that had us in there. And I love that. I miss that hope. I miss that, like, I'm going to take over the world tomorrow, you know, and I'm sorry, but that feels better than being right about
Yes.
things going wrong.
Yes.
Right? Because it does. I'm not going to pretend like it doesn't. When you say, hey, that's not going to work, and it doesn't work, there's a part of me that feels good. Like, I told you. Like, it does. It feels good to say I told you so. Yes. I'm not going to pretend like it doesn't. But if I measure the good feeling I get from saying I told you so versus the good feeling of dreaming up like this grandiose whatever idea, that feels infinitely better than the I told you
100%.
so.
100%, brother.
Like, it just does.
I'm so in line with that. And I think that's why I get such a kick out of sports and people that succeed. I love watching people live out their childhood dream. You know, it's like when you watch a World Series, you watch a final, you watch a Super Bowl, and you watch them how how they feel when they win. You just know, wow, man, everything you ever wanted. Like you worked so hard for that, and you're getting it right now. I'm watching somebody get something phenomenal, right? And then they slip a little bit sometimes, right? They'll say, "This is the best day of my life," and they have children and kids, and wife. And so, to someone who doesn't get it, would try to say, "Well, how can it be the best day of your life? I mean, you have kids." Well, the reason is because that other stuff they never really thought was even going to be possible, but this is what they worked to be possible.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you didn't expect to have a child and feel like that about another human being ever in your life. You didn't expect to be lucky enough to find your wife or husband or whatever like that. But you always dreamt, all right, it's the fourth quarter, 10 seconds left, you're down by 6, and you go back. I mean, you did that. We did that in our beds, man. That is what we dream about as little kids. And so when they get it, I think back at those moments when everybody's a little kid playing with their little cars or their little soldiers or their little men, and then go, and they just lived it. They just lived it. And even just talking about it right now makes me feel really good.
Yeah.
So I love that feeling, and I love living that feeling through other people because you can only have so many for yourself, right? So to enjoy it through other people is amazing. And those of you that are negative, and like Trinity said, there's so many more of you recently, you're not allowing yourself that beauty of living through other people that are enjoying their life. Instead, envy, jealousy,
bitterness.
attack, bitterness, and social media has a lot to do with that because instead of just looking at it and go, wow, that's good for them, it's like, oh, this ain't real. They're not that happy.
Why can't I have that?
Yeah, they just put up all the positive. Well, you're not supposed to post your negative. Like, I don't want to see your negative. I mean, I'm sorry. If you like doing it, that's on you, but if you only put all your shitty moments online, that's on you. I'm not interested. I only like every time you fight with your husband or wife, you shouldn't get on there and go like, all right, my freaking husband right now is blah, 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 and post that. I mean, that's you actually might become very famous by doing that, but that's not what,
Well, no, it takes away imagination too, right? Like, because like when you were mentioning that earlier about being kids, dude, do you know how many game-winning shots I've won in my head? Do you know how many people I beat up in my head, like with kung fu, just these weird little fights? Like, oh, if somebody did this, and I would do that. My imagination went crazy as a kid. Like,
it was beautiful.
Absolutely, it was awesome,
beautiful.
And that same concept of imagination of, hey, man, I'm going to do. And the thing is, it's going to happen to somebody. Why not you?
Why
you know
not
what I mean?
you? That's
like, why not?
That's the best sentence right there. It's why not
why
you?
Why not? Like one of our good friends, Daryl Strawberry. He like many other people at that age when he was a kid wanted to play baseball and probably imagined all these things, and he thought it was possible. He went and did it, and he won 4 rings.
Yeah.
Why not you? You know what I mean? Like, why that person puts their pants on one leg at a time as you do? Like, all it is when opportunity meets preparation, really. You know what I mean? Like, so why not you? But I can promise you this: if you're walking around negative and pissy all the time, you're probably not going to have it happen to you because you're not going to be in a position to have that opportunity in the first place.
Right.
And one of the things that really changed my, brought it to light for me, and it irritates the hell out of the people in my life, by the way. Like, and I'm sorry, but I'm never going to stop. And that is like I'm so non-committal to some things,
right?
As far as if it's good or if it's bad,
right.
I'm extremely non-committal until I have all the data, and I wait no matter what it is. I'm like, okay, well let's wait and see, because I'm not going to commit to the negative side or the positive side. I'm going to wait till I have all the info. And one of the the stories, I'm sure I've told it on here before, but I'm going to tell it again for those of you who maybe just found us. It was the old Taoist story of the farmer, right? And I know as soon as I started, I know you're going to know it. I've said it before, but so basically the farmer was at his farm and doing his thing, and his horse took off and ran away. And then his neighbor, also at a farm, saw that his horse ran away. And he comes to him. He's like, "Oh man, that's terrible. That's so bad that your horse ran away. It destroys everything for you. I'm sorry for that." And the farmer's like, maybe. And then the next day, the horse comes back, and apparently the horse found a friend. So 2 horses come back, and he puts them in the stable. And then the neighbor comes to him and says, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing. That's so great that he came back and he brought somebody else. Now you have 2 horses. Isn't that so awesome?" And then the guy's like, maybe. And then the next day, this is a rough week for him. The next day,
maybe.
Yeah. The next day, his son tries to ride the new horse, falls off and breaks his leg. And then the farmer's like, "Oh my gosh, what a horrible thing. That's so terrible that your son broke his leg. It's so bad. It's so negative, blah, blah, blah." And well, maybe. And then the following day, the local army comes by to try to recruit his son to go off to war, but they can't because he's got a broken leg. And then the farmer's like, "Oh my gosh, it's so great that they couldn't eat it." Maybe. And so my point in all that is maybe, I'm not going to commit to this is horrible, this is terrible, or this is awesome and this is great, because you don't really know. And so I'm not telling you, if you're a negative person, I'm not telling you to erase your whole history. Right. I'm not telling you to erase statistics. I'm not telling you to erase, commonalities or just what, I get it. Life has happened to you and you've experienced things. You can't erase that. I'm not telling you to erase that. But somewhere along the line, and once again, I'm only speaking to the negative people at the moment, somewhere along the line, you allowed those instances to ruin you. You've allowed them to ruin your ambition, your hope, your imagination. Like, they've won twice. They won the first time because it didn't happen and you wanted it to. And then they continue to win because they continue to hold you hostage and make you now be that negative person who doesn't believe in joy or happiness or hope or all these other things. So stop. Like, why not you? Like, don't give up all those things, but also don't give up the idea that positive things do happen. Good things do happen. And sometimes good things, amazing things, come from terrible things. Like on our previous show on Couch Live, Jack Levine, we had him on there, and he even said, like, this girl broke my heart and it was terrible, but then I found the woman of my life and I married her. 20 years later, we got multiple kids and we're living life.
Right.
And he never would have found her had, they not gotten divorced or what. I don't know if that was his story, but the story he told, never would have found that. Had this terrible thing of heartbreak happen, he never would have, stumbled across this person. Like, even for myself, I look at who I am today, and I have a thing right here that says no regrets, right? And people always see that, and they're like, how do you have? You're lying. You don't have any regrets, and you can't not regret things. And no, I don't. Do I regret outcomes? Of course. There's plenty of things that didn't end up the way I thought they were going to end up.
Right.
But the reason why I don't regret it, and the reason why I don't view it as a negative thing, is because I trusted my process of decision making. At the time, I made the best decision that I had with what I thought was going to happen versus, all the data that I had. I had a very sound thinking, and I'm not going to regret it just because it didn't turn out the way I thought it was going to turn out. Yeah, I was wrong about it, but I still made what I felt to be a good decision at the time. And so for me, that's why I'm not going to do the whole negative, positive thing. Like, you don't know, and even when you think it's negative, it might not be. There's plenty of things that have happened in our lives, and even yours, if you think back. Right. I'm sure there's at least 5 or 10 instances where you thought something was devastating, only to find out that it was actually a blessing in disguise. So,
yeah, my entire childhood. Yeah,
right. Well, that's
really.
That's what I'll say. I love who I am today, and I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't be the father I am today. Right. I wouldn't be the friend that I am today. I wouldn't be the husband I am today. I wouldn't be the helper, the fixer that I am today, had it not been all the terrible things and positive things that I've experienced in my life. Right. Because everything I am today is a result of all those different moments in my life. Right. Some good, some not so good. Each one of those moments added to the sculpture that you see in front of you, and I wouldn't be who I am today without those. So I can't, by default, call those things negative. They weren't negative. They were just necessary lessons. that I had to learn to be where I'm at. And so for me, when I hear the negative stuff, it's just like, I agree with you. I didn't realize how sensitive I was to it until the last few years. Because once I found my spirituality, once I heard the maybe thing, I kind of really am sensitive to it. I might not say something right away, but I'll notice I start avoiding that more and more. Like if you're a really negative person, you'll notice that I just won't text you as much anymore. I'm not going to harp on you because you're entitled to live your life that way. You'll just notice you'll see less of me because I am sensitive to it, and it does affect me. If I'm around somebody negative, dude, it feels good to be negative, man. Like I'm an ass in my core, right? Like I am an asshole. I can be mean and I can be nasty. Like I can be aggressive, and so if it's like a drug for me, it feels so good. It's like a jacket, like it's like your favorite jacket you've worn 100 times, man. Like, oh yeah, I can put that, and I don't want to be that, right? Like my life is so much different when I'm not that dude. So I try my best to not hang out with those people or do, because I'll find myself slipping right back into that behavior, and I don't like who I am like that.
Well, that's why it's safe to have friends that are similar to you. You know what I mean? That's why it's safe to be friends with each other, because we allow ourselves, all right, let's get negative for a few minutes, and then we pop out of it and do Dharma time. You know what I mean? Or something like that. You know what I mean? It's like you got to have permission to just like, let me jump off the reservation real quick, and then you get back in line, right?
Of course.
So while you were talking, all kinds of images go in my head, and people and scenarios. And one of the things that I think about is how, when you were saying the self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like, because you have proof, and I know we all have proof of negative events. And what's very unfortunate is that if you look back on your, like when I joked about childhood, my mother would watch this and she would be like, that was horrible, because I think you had a great childhood, right? And as a parent, I can see that, because I hear my children when they explain who Dana and I are and how we've been, and they remember all these little negative stories that me and Dana look at each other and go, what the hell are they
bro? According to my
about?
kids, I run the gulag here. Like,
well, I'm telling you,
my house is a Russian prison.
I feel you, because I mean, from the, you told me you were going to shoot me in the face. You told me that nobody liked me. You told me, you called me a whore. It was stupid.
Wow.
I didn't say these things. I'm just saying, like, these are stupid things that I didn't even say. I may say a thing like, do you want to look, or do you want to, and it sounds something similar, whatever. But as a kid, they put it in their head, like, did you just call me that? No, man. Like if I say, stop, just stop bitching about a situation. That's not saying you're a bitch kind of scenario. It's that kind of word, right?
Sure.
So when I think back on it, I go like, wow, is that me? Is it very possible that as negative as, because I remember more negative things than positive things. I think it's the state of mind that we have, right? There's a way that the brain operates, and my brain, because I focused on it so much during my childhood, that's what I put in my long-term memory. I put negative events in my long-term memory, so I have an easier recollection of bad events. I could tell you every time I got arrested. I could say every time I got in fights. I can remember the fights. I remember trouble. I remember painful events. And then I try to remember positive events, and it's like I got to hear it through someone else, and then I go like, oh yeah, I remember that. Yo, that was cool. Yeah, I do remember that. I don't know if other people experience that, but I know my memory works that way. And I think a large part is because I focused on it so much growing up that I actually created long-term memory out of these little events.
Yeah.
Because there's definitely positive events there. And like I said, because when I hear other people speak of life events that I was present at, then I can recall it.
Right.
But self-recall, like it's something that immediately pops in. And so the life lesson I'm saying is I tell my kids, if you focus on that, now it's funny that we all can laugh about it. That's great, because I can never laugh about those kind of stories with my parents. And I'll laugh with you. I'll say, yeah, I think I did say I want to shoot you in the face right now. But let me explain to you what I really meant at the moment, or how I said it. Maybe you're just not understanding myself, my humor, the way I speak. But I also say, if you keep those events and you don't remind yourself of all the good family time events, then you're going to say things like, I always, you always, it's I never, we never. And that's where you don't want to be.
No.
If you feel that now, let's have a conversation about it. Let's talk about it, because I never want you to feel that way, because it's not going to hurt me if you think I always, you never, and all that. It's not going to hurt me. I'm going to be dead and gone. but it will hurt you into your 30s, into your 40s, into your 50s. You'll pass it on into your children. That's the risk you take. If you carry baggage and negativity, you will pass this on. You can't help but do it. Now, luckily, what I tell them is, luckily, these little things that you hear, the reason you're laughing while you're telling me is because what I passed on to you was how I laugh about my bullshit. I laugh about my crazy behavior and my stupidity and my errors in life, because that was my form of therapy with myself. I have to laugh at myself. And so that's why I gave that to you. Now, hopefully you keep that, because if you keep the other, you'll give the other to your kids. So there's life lessons in how we're acting, but there's also responsibility in how we're acting, because of what I'm telling you right now, that the fact that I know that I kept negative memories deeper than positive memories
Sure.
I don't ever wish that on anyone ever. And shame on me for being in that situation, because there's so many great moments that I can't self-recall,
Right.
all because I chose as a child to focus on the most negative of moments. And that's on me. I'm not going to blame anyone for that. That's 100% on. That was my coping skills that did that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so first off, I would say that if we think back, which ones felt better, once again, were the negative memories or the memories when we were like laughing and positive and optimistic. Of course, those are the ones that felt better, right? And we might view there was more negative ones, and this is where I'm going to have to get Dharma timey, right? And you're going to have to probably put on your AANA hat, right?
Yeah, all right. Well, I got my glasses on
exactly.
today, so I'm smarter right now.
This is what I'm going to argue, and we're going to get. This is the part of the show where we get philosophical on you. I'm going to argue that those negative events weren't really negative at all. They weren't negative or positive. I'm going to argue that there's no such thing as negative or positive. And the reason why I'm going to argue that is, if you think about everything that you would refer to as negative, is it inherently negative, or is it just because it didn't meet your expectations? Did you form expectations of what was going to happen? Excuse me. Did you form an expectation of how that person was going to react, what they were going to say, what was going to happen next, that you were going to get this? Or did you form this expectation and this narrative of how things were going to go? And then when it didn't line up to what you thought should or would happen, did you then also call that negative? Is that what more likely is what happened? I think so. I don't think anything is inherently negative or positive. I think things just are, and you're experiencing them. And what makes it negative is because you didn't get your way, right? You had this idea, this concept of what should be. Well, they ought to do this, or this ought to happen, this should happen. And when it doesn't fit, instead of you saying, you know what, maybe I shouldn't have expected that. Maybe I shouldn't have played God, or I shouldn't have played, ruler of the universe and thought that I could dictate what life does. I'm kind of a passenger in this situation, not the driver. Instead of doing that, you're thinking, well, they just did. And you start to try to validate your expectations. Instead of realizing that you're the one that erred by making an expectation in the first place, you instead try to validate and blame everybody else. And then oftentimes, as Jack said on our last show, sometimes people suck, right? And so, yeah, maybe they did suck. And then you're going to justify it by saying, oh, they suck. No, man, you suck. You suck to yourself because you keep building up this expectation, this narrative, excuse me, and you keep letting yourself down. As they said in NAA, expectations lead to resentment?
Premeditated.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, this idea of trying to think things should be a certain way, whatever that might be. Maybe your spouse didn't give you the nod of approval the way you thought they should. Maybe they weren't as excited about something as you thought that they should. Maybe your coworkers didn't do something that you think that they should have done. Maybe your kids didn't do something you think they should have done. Maybe your dog. I don't know, man. Whatever it is, you had this preconceived notion of what was going to happen. We're human beings. We can't help it. That's just how we're wired. Based upon that's what we call reality, right? Our reality is our best guess of what's going to happen next based upon everything that we've seen thus far in our lives. And sometimes that guess is wrong, right? And so essentially you started the day, and in your mind, you already had it all mapped out. Whether you realize it or not, you already had every interaction mapped out in your head. I'm going to wake up tomorrow on time. When I get up, everything's going to be where I thought it should be. The water's going to be a certain temperature. Certain stoplights aren't going to catch me. My bosses, whatever it is, you've already played it out in your head. Whether you realize it or not, you've already played out what it's going to look like in your head. And then when you wake up, you're basically looking, am I right or was I wrong? You're looking to validate where you're at. And so when something happens that was right, and this is where the really shitty part comes in. When you were right, you don't even celebrate the right. You just take it for granted and accept, like, yeah, I was right, and you move on. Like when you do wake up with your alarm, you're not like, yes, I woke up with my alarm. Yeah, I was right about that. No, you're like, yeah, of course I was. Like, whatever, who cares? And then on to the next. And then the second it doesn't line up, the second that you were wrong, and your preconceived notions of what was going to happen next, it's devastating. It's like, oh, come on, dude, why? Oh, of course this happens to me. And then you just start like just losing your shit. And then when somebody sees you, how was your day? Oh, it was a terrible day. Well, really? Wow. Like, what happened? You know, and what you're gonna say all these things of what happened, but what you're really saying is, I was wrong in my guesses. I guessed all these things wrong, and now I'm upset because of my inability to guess it. And when you say it like that, it sounds stupid. You know why? Because it is stupid. Like, if I told you to go out right now and I want you to pick up your car with one hand, would you even attempt it? No, because that'd be stupid. You can't do it. You can't do it. Well, you have a higher chance of going out and picking up your car one-handed over your head than you have tomorrow making everything work out exactly the way you think it's going to work out. You have a better chance, because at least with this, you can try to work out and get strong enough, or you can create a bionic arm or something. But the idea that you can somehow make life do what you think it should, it's never going to happen. And we all know that. That's the first truth, by the way, in the Four Truths and Eightfold Path. The first truth is pain is a part of life. Not pain as in, oops, that hurt me. Pain as in something unsatisfactory took place. Something that I deemed undesirable happened in my life. You know, we all know that to be true. And yet, for whatever reason, every time it happens to us, we lose our minds and we instantly label it. That was negative. So my argument is that there is no such thing as negative. There was just, your expectations weren't met. There you go.
Mic drop. First of all, people, kids, I want you to think about something for a second. When Trinity said, if I said to go outside and lift the car with one hand, only a guy Trinity's size would even have to not include both hands. I mean, Trinity couldn't say go outside and lift it with both hands, because maybe you could do that in his opinion, because in his head,
my wife's old car, I probably could.
That's my point.
The little yard.
So only a guy Trinity's size has to exclude one of your hands, just so you couldn't do that, because the negative part of him is instantly he's got to take away that armament from you to be able to say, well, I can lift it. So he took out one of your hands, and he knew damn well you weren't going to be able to be successful with one hand. Only a guy that big. Anyway, the mentality of here's the now that we're speaking about cars, I want everybody to think about the last new vehicle that you got. What was the last new vehicle you got, Trinity?
That would be my Tundra outside.
Well, how about the family car, though?
Oh, yes. We bought my wife a new Leaf a few months back.
Okay. So I remember when Trinity called me and told me about this car. I had to Google it. A Leaf.
Me too.
I never even seen it. But here's the question, Trinity. Since you've purchased this Leaf and have been in this Leaf and owned this Leaf, how many other Leaves have you seen on the street?
Oh, tons of them. Everywhere I look.
Yeah. People, I have yet to see one. Now, so the point is that when you view things out of one perspective and you get stuck in that perspective, it all can be right in front of you and you still don't see it. Now, it's impossible that I have not seen a Leaf. Impossible.
Yeah.
Yet, because I don't own one, I haven't been in one, I haven't seen Trinity's. I only Googled it that one time and saw it. I haven't even seen his car. Therefore, I have no mental image of what a Leaf even looks like. And so when I see one on the street, my mind doesn't even process, even see it, whoop, goes right past it.
Yep.
And sees every Toyota, or every Challenger. I see every Challenger.
Of course.
Okay. But you understand what I'm saying, right? Just like when I used to ride a motorcycle, you'd see every motorcycle, you did your little thing.
Yeah.
And then I remember when my brother owned a Jeep, and I saw him do the same thing in his Jeep every time a Jeep passed. And I was like, oh, there's a Jeep connection. See, that doesn't happen with, I don't think, Trinity when he's in his Leaf.
No. No. It literally only happens with Jeeps and motorcycles that I'm aware of.
It literally only happens with Jeeps and motorcycles.
Yeah.
But I'm only aware of those two because I've been connected to those two.
Yeah.
It might happen to Corvettes, but I've never owned one, so I don't know. But if there's another group, it might be Corvettes. It might be like, remember when PT Cruiser's out and Miatas? Those are other little groups. Maybe. But so this is what I'm saying. What I'm saying, people, is that whatever your perspective is, that's what you're going to see more of. So if you want to experience negativity, stay exactly where you're at. If you're experiencing a lot of it and you're feeling it, stay exactly where you're at. Don't change a damn thing because it's working. You're fishing with negative lure, you're going to get negative lure.
Yep.
You put on your negative glasses, you're going to see all the negative shit. Just enjoy it. But if you don't enjoy that anymore, and you're in a situation where we are, where we're like, God, man, I'm not, and it's always that sentence, I'm getting too old for this. Like I heard my daughter even say, I'm getting too old. I'm like, girl, you're like 21 years old. What are you talking about? You get too old. But I get it, because basically that sentence really just means like enough of this already. Right. So if you're saying enough of this already, then ask yourself, what is it that I can do different? What do I need to make? And I'm talking minor change. Minor changes lead to bigger changes, by the way. But you got to do them consistently. Minor changes done consistently lead to major changes in the long run. You got to trust the process of change. You can't just do it a full day and think, it didn't work, so then you don't do it again. You got to. So there's minor changes that lead to. So some of the minor changes for negativity are, one major one is Trinity just gave it to you. He gave it to you wrapped in a nice little mic drop basket, which says it's a matter of perspective. Is it really negative, or is it just an experience? Is it just something that is?
Yep.
And if it's just something that is, that's going to automatically change your perspective on how to interpret it, how to digest it, how to marinate on it. If you do not give it the power of being negative, if you do not give it the strength of being something negative, even though it may very well be, then it ain't. If it doesn't fit, you must have quit. And we all learned that, right? You can try to put the glove on and it just doesn't fit, even though we think, I think it should have fit, but no, it didn't. We all saw that it clearly didn't, even though all of us say, but it had to, right? Like he can't be that good of an actor, right? We saw Airplane. Now, so this is what I'm saying, people. So just know it's the onus is on you. The responsibility is on us, all of us. And not only a one-time event, but it's a responsibility to be around a person like Trinity and I are around each other. And we speak to each other so we can hold each other accountable. And there's been more than one occasion where we've called each other on it like, dude. I know for sure there's been a couple times I said that you're not being very Dharma guys, because it's fun to say, right? Just like like he can say a dope doctor comment, I can say a Dharma guy comment, because we're allowed that freedom and opportunity to talk to each other a certain type of way and hold each other accountable in a very friendly, loving way. And I think that's vital. That's important. And so I would suggest that if you want to move in that direction, number one, you got to be around that kind of influence. You got to be around people that are going to be 100% honest with you. Maybe the people you're around most of the time are just not going to do that with you. Maybe they're stuck in the soup with you. One of my favorite, and I'll end with this. My best teacher of all time, and anybody that watches any shows of ours, any Dope and Dharma shows, know darn well I knock teachers more than any other group out there. And teachers, you can hate on me all you want, but y'all used to hit me with paddles. And I don't want to keep explaining why I had an issue with teachers, but y'all hit me with paddles for many, many years. So it's just a little child in me that still pouts a little bit. But my favorite teacher of all time, my number one teacher of all time, is the very first teacher that ever gave me an F and failed me and made me take a class over again. I'll never forget that. 7th grade Texas history class. And he would, as nasty as this dude was, ugly, nasty, smelly, disgusting, had all these weird habits that I could just make fun of. And I did. And I made a lot of fun of him. And the whole class laughing all the time. So I kept doing it. But he would look at me and go, "You're digging yourself a hole, son. You're digging yourself a hole." And I'd be like, really? I'm digging myself a hole. I never understood that until I got older and I realized, no, I not only dig a hole, but I tend to hang out with people that jump in the hole with me, and they jump in with shovels. They don't jump in, they don't throw down ladders. They don't come with any ideas on how to get up that way. They're like, we could just keep digging. Let's dig until we get out of the hole sideways or downways or whatever. But you got to stop digging that hole. And that was life changing for me, to truly interpret what this man who I viewed as negative. I took his class twice, mind you. And the second time I aced it. And that was my proof to him that, hey, brother, I'm smarter than you think. And I could still act like a jerk and still pass your class. But what he will never know, unfortunately, and I could never find him again back then, and he passed away now, to thank him. But Mr. Jansen, I thank you, because you were my best teacher ever, because you were 100% correct. I was digging myself a hole. I was viewing things in a negative way. I was acting in a negative way. And I was going for that immediate gratification of laughter and ignoring the true facts that I had all the responsibility in the world for how I viewed it, how I acted in it, and how the world responded to me. You were 100% right. It was in my control the whole time, and I was giving it up. And that was life-changing for me.
Right on. And I guess before I do my wrap up, I would say that plus it just feels better. You know what I mean? Like, it just feels good to not be negative. It's like a snowball effect. I've seen it with my own son. I do the same thing. Like, something will happen and he'll get negative and pissy about it. And then he'll react emotionally to it. That then creates more problems that he has to now deal with. And then he'll get mad and be like, well, this happened to me. I was like, no, it didn't happen to you. It happened and you made it worse. Like, the situation you're currently in is because your reaction to all these other things that took place was in such a bad moment. Like, it was such a negative thing that you just created more of it. Now you're knee deep in it. I use different words. Obviously he's 11, but my point is I'm trying to get him to learn those lessons as well. Yeah. And that goes for all of us, dude. Like, we're all in the same boat. But more importantly,
there's your alarm that you were talking about earlier.
That's Shaw. That's Shaw calling me.
It's because it's 8:00. Our show's on live over there. Yeah. So it's next. Now what? And let's go.
Yeah. All right. So, anyways, that's it for us today. Once again, thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you guys got something out of it. If you did, feel free to share, comment, that kind of stuff. I'll just leave you with this once again. Nothing's really inherently negative or positive. It was your reaction to it. It was your expectation that wasn't met. So if you're finding things, a bunch of things around you that are negative, you kind of have to look inward and be like, hold up, why do I keep doing this? It's on you. It's not on the world. It's not on anybody else. Life is just doing what life does. You're the one who's labeling it not negative or positive. So anyways, that's all we got for today. So now that you know better, do better. Peace.